Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Pond, awards editor of TheWrap, and we're happy to have you here for our screening and conversation about Prayers for the Stolen, which is the Mexican entry in this year's Oscar race for Best International Feature Film. We'll be here with producer Nicolás Celis and actress Mayra Batalla. First, we're going to show you the trailer, and then we'll go right into a conversation with our panelists. To the audience, please participate in the live chat, share your thoughts about the film, let us know where you're tuning in from. And now, before we introduce our guests, let's take a look at the trailer.
Amarillo, negro, rojo.
No se muevan.
Es venenosa. No los miren a los ojos.
Ma, ¿habló mi papá?
No contestó.
Mañana le hablamos.
Anoche se metieron en una casa, se llevaron una muchacha.
¿Por qué traes los labios pintados?
Todos sabemos que ha sido un año difícil. Ustedes son las mamás de mis alumnos y me gustaría que me dijeran qué saben sobre lo que pasó.
¿Qué creen que nos pasa cuando una de nosotras tres de repente se vaya?
Y bailaba chido el muchacho, ¿eh?
¿Quieres intentarlo?
Pues yo no tengo quinto.
Pues no sé cómo le vas a hacer, pero tienes que mandar a traerla.
¡Quítamelo!
Ana, escóndete.
Venimos por la niña, madre.
Tenemos que irnos de aquí.
Welcome back. It's my pleasure to introduce producer Nicolás Celis and actress Mayra Batalla. And Cordella is here to help translate for Mayra. Welcome, and thank you all for joining us, and thank you for a beautiful and very powerful film. Nicolás, let me start with you. I know that you originally sent the book on which this is based to Tatiana Hueso, the director, who had only done documentaries up until that point. So what was it that made you think that she would be a good fit for this material, and why did you think it was worthy of a film?
Thanks, Steve. This is the first adaptation I do. This is the first project I do coming from a book. I read Prayers for the Stolen, and I was amazed since the first pages. And I knew I had to buy it. I didn't know how. I didn't know what were the steps and the process. And I talked with my producing partner, Jim Stark, with whom I had worked for several years. And we, got on board on acquiring the rights. And then we were like, well, now what do we do? What's the next step? How do you, I had never done a project that was originated by me. So, we gave it to Tatiana, with whom I had a relationship for, more than 10 years, because I had produced her 2 feature documentaries. And I gave the book to her, not thinking that she would be the director, because she was a very close friend. I admire, the way, she writes, she directs and everything. She's a very close friend. So I wanted to have a very intimate approach of, what she thought about the book. She gave me a return, like the notes she gave me, it was like 20 pages. And, and I then realized that she really connected with the material, and we were like, okay, maybe, we'll ask if she would try to jump to narrative, because we had never talked about it. So we were like, I was very nervous that she would say no. And she said yes. And what I loved about this book is that, it talks in a very beautiful way, about how 3 girls, grow together in a very difficult place. and it shows and portrays, how difficult it is to be a woman in Mexico. And I had done very, challenging movies like Eli from Amatem Escalante, Tempestad, Tatiana's previous documentary that, they're very raw in a way of how we portray, what it means to be in Mexico, or in a way of being in Mexico. And what I loved of this book, it was that it was through love, through friendship, through a very compelling story that really made me try to keep speaking about, what's going on in Mexico, but from a more empathic way.
Right. I mean, we should, say a little bit about the setting, because it's these three young girls who were growing up in a sort of a remote village, but it's also a village where there are poppy fields. So I guess the drug cartels have real power there, right?
Yeah, it's the way it's made, the way Tatiana portrayed all these challenging things in Mexico, it's amazing, at least for me, in terms that it's very poetic, it's very subtle, it's not graphic porn, it's not like we don't want to promote violence, but we wanted to show the reality. And for example, we're in these mountains, that they're away from everything, healthcare, security, there's no jobs, all men has migrated to the US, a lot of families are displaced and have to leave the town because it's not safe. The irony of of growing poppy fields being the safest job you can have, in terms that the cartels will protect you, that the military won't fumigate those poppy fields, that showed like a relationship between cartels and the government, in a way that if you're in the poppy fields, they won't put all the venom or they won't fumigate it because there's a deal, let's say, so they fumigate the town. So we wanted to show these little details about how you don't have other options in these places sometimes to survive, because what these women are doing it's survival. And that's how Tatiana wanted to show it, to leave a lot of of sugar, of candy out of it, and leave the protein, and leave the audience to to discover all these details.
Right. Mayra, tell us a little bit about your character and what attracted you to this film. You're muted.
Sorry. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
No trabajamos con el guión, es importante decirlo de entrada. Entonces, para contestarte exactamente qué fue lo primero que me atrajo, fue que Tatiana lo dirigía y que Nicolás Celis producía esta película. Realmente me fui enterando con el paso del tiempo cuál era la historia que íbamos a contar. Para mí, lo que más me atrapó es que conocía perfectamente el trabajo de Tatiana, por supuesto el de Nico, y yo quería trabajar con ellos. Ese sería como lo primero que me llamó la atención.
First, I think it's important to say that we didn't get to see the script beforehand. And to answer your question as to what attracted me to this role and to this project was that I knew that Tatiana was going to be the director and that Nico was going to be the producer. And it was only with the time that as I started to get in this project that I learned more about the story. So what attracted me was that I knew their work, Tatiana's and Nico's.
Right. I mean, did it scare you saying yes when you weren't able to see the script?
No. No. Creo que hay algo en común en Tatiana, Nico, y en este caso yo, que es un proyecto que nos implicaba aventarnos a todos con todo. No, es una película, o como fue hecha, que no permitía a medias, ¿sabes? Como decisiones a medias. Y en ese caso creo que los involucrados somos personas así, que cuando decimos va, sin importar que, o sea, sin importar y sin tener mucha información de cómo iba a suceder. Insisto, creo que algo de lo más preciado en la película son las personas quienes la hicieron, no solo Tatiana y Nico, por supuesto, sino toda la gente de arte, la foto, el crew era bastante tentador.
No, I think something that we all have in common, Tatiana, Nico, and myself, is that when we got on this project, we really just threw ourselves in it. This wasn't something that we could do halfway, and we're all people that when we get involved, we go in hard, we go in 100%, no matter, without knowing what would happen. And I think it's really the team that came together. And it's not just Nico and Tatiana, the entire team, art, photography, everybody involved was very tempting for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you ever get to sit down with the script and study it even before you shot? My understanding is that you never really had that opportunity.
No, months later. Sí, lo leí muchísimo después de haber terminado la película y un año después leí la novela. Y lo que pasó es que tuvimos todo un trabajo previo con las niñas, entonces no es que no trabajáramos la escena, no significa que todo fue improvisación, trabajamos muchísimo sobre cada escena, sobre cada situación, el contenido, pero no las líneas.
I didn't read it before. I did after filming. I read it a lot, and a year after we filmed, I read the novel. And this doesn't mean that there was no previous work. We did a lot of previous work with the girls. We worked on the situations, on the content, but we didn't have lines. We didn't have a script.
Right. Well, Nicolás, you have professional actors like Mayra in some of the roles of the adults in this film, but the center of the film are these three young girls who were seen at two different ages. So you have to cast 6 actresses who, three pairs of actresses at different ages who look alike, who for the most part haven't had acting experience. So how difficult was the casting there?
Sorry for the trumpets at the background. You can tell I'm in Mexico City. but it was a great process. Like Mayra said, I think it's very important, the team behind the movie, because I've learned that every day it's more challenging to do independent films, to take risks on film, and I feel that what we wanted to do is to do a Tatiana Hueso movie, and for me that was the most important thing, in terms that when she said yes to adapt the book, she was like, I want complete freedom, and for me it was like, that's why I want to work with you. It's like that's what I like of working with filmmakers, like in Roma with Alfonso, in Birds of Passage. That like I want to be a part of a great idea from someone with a great universe, and Tatiana. When she was developing the story, I think it was very good that she hadn't done fiction, because this was a very challenging film. And I think that if she knew the scope, the size of this film, probably another director would have panicked and said, let's keep it more simple or do something different. And I think that Tatiana, was learning how to work with makeup department, because she has a big interventions, VFX, special effects. Like, she was working since the beginning, like in a very natural way. But when we get into casting, I remember when I was financing the film that all the financiers were like, you're crazy, like directors from documentary, do not know how to direct actors. It's, it's even if she's very talented, like I heard it all the time. And I think that, I was like, I never doubted that Tatiana could do it. But, I was like, as a producer, like, what do you do? Because I'm not going to direct. I don't know how to direct. It's like, bring the right tools to the table. And we found this amazing and talented women in Brazil called Fátima Toledo, that she had, worked coaching non-professional actors for films like City of God, The Golden Cage, and so many other films that, they have, regular people jumping for the first time on a film. So we brought Fatima, and we started looking for our main, set of girls, because we needed 3 8-year-old girls, and then their clones being teenagers. And Tatiana didn't want to have girls from the city where you can find most of the actors. She wanted to have, girls from the mountains that you would know that they have similar stories as the ones we're portraying, that they would bring a lot of, protein to the film. And we casted more than 800 girls, and one of the adolescent teenagers girls is one of the characters in her previous doc, that she worked in a circus. So Tatiana wanted to have the script as a frame. She didn't show it to the team because she wanted to make it bigger, to bring own experiences, to make it real in that sense. So we found these amazing girls, these actresses that that also, as in a producer's point of view, and that's why I love this movie and I push it so more, because movies have become the best good news in Mexico. All the good news come from cinema. It's like winning the World Cup when we won with Roma. I remember that it's not only, it's a national thing, and it's also a door of opportunities. When we did Roma, Yalitza Aparicio got a nomination, and she became, like a flag in our country in a big way. And I think that the girls that acted in the movie, I think that them and their parents, they wanted to their girls to live something different, to have an opportunity, to go out from their community, to keep their dreams, being high. And I feel that that's kind of in the DNA of the movie.
Right. Yeah. I talked to Tatiana a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying, my entire crew on all my previous movies is probably, no more than 15 people for any movie I've ever made. And on this one, I have 15 people in the art department. So it did seem like, it was a lot more people than she was used to dealing with. How did you have to, show her the ropes there?
Yeah, no, and I feel that in all of my movies that are most of them author driven, one of the first things that come up in meetings is like, I want to shoot with 10 people, natural light, like I get this feeling that means that they can keep creative freedom, that they can, that they don't face a very rigid shoot or a rigid process. And I feel that that's very important, that sometimes, maybe directors, I remember asking Amate Escalante in our last movie, I was like, how many people do you think we were? And he was like, well, like 30. I was like, well, in a regular day, we were like 60 or 70, but it's good that you feel that, that they were less, so your process wasn't affected. And I feel that Tatiana kind of, wasn't scared in a way of having so many people and having so little room that fiction, in a way, gives you, because you have so many people, time is money, so any change, any improvisation, sometimes in a big structure, it's hard to move the boat a little bit. So I feel that we're a team, and I think that it's not easy to do any movie. I've learned that people after Roma told me, like, now it's gonna be everything down the hill, you get money, and now everything is more expensive. Everything is more, the challenging in a way. And I love that there's no easy movie. And I think that you just have to decide who you want to spend your life with, as a, in this industry that needs so many people.
Yeah. Right. Mayra, you were acting opposite, young girls who hadn't acted before for a lot of the films. So how did you prepare with them so that so that they would be ready and you would be ready?
Uh-huh. Yo vengo de una preparación del teatro, estudié la escuela en drama, y en el primer año le llaman algo que es indeterminación, que significa no se trata del personaje, no hay creación de personaje, sino se trata de trabajar contigo, con tu mundo emocional, eh, y ponerlo al servicio de una situación. Entonces, eso es lo que requería Projects for the Stolen. En ese sentido no fue complicado. Y diría que lo que requirió fue muchísima generosidad. Iba más allá de solo mostrar mis habilidades actorales. Incluso diría que eso fue un poco en lo que menos estuve atenta, sino para mí requería estar al servicio de las niñas, muy atenta de ellas todo el tiempo, reaccionar a lo que ellas me daban y, por supuesto, encaminarlas hacia donde Tatiana quería llevar la escena. Por ejemplo, yo tenía llamados incluso cuando no tenía escenas, solo para que las niñas, cuando hablaban de mí o tenían alguna situación, yo estuviera detrás de la cámara haciéndoles caras, diciéndoles algo o incluso trabajando con ellas físicamente, poniéndolas en situación. Diría que es un trabajo muy especial, sin duda, que significa es estar para el otro. Lo he dicho muchas veces en entrevistas y no me cansaré de decirlo. Para mí eso es actuar, se trata del otro todo el tiempo. En la medida que el otro existe, existe tu personaje. Si Ana no está, Rita no existe. Perdóname, Cordelia, dije mucho.
My training is in theater. I studied drama, and we talked about something called indetermination, which is to think not about the character, is not about the character, but about your emotional world and putting that emotional world to the service of a situation. So in that sense, it wasn't complicated. When it got more complex was that I had to act beyond my acting skills. It wasn't about my acting skills. It was about putting myself to the service of the girls, to react to what they were giving me, to take them where Tatiana wanted me to take them. In fact, sometimes I got called on scenes where I wasn't even part of the scene, where it was just the girls, but they made some kind of reference to me. So I was there talking to them, making faces at them, physically working with them and putting them in that situation. And in that sense, it was really special. I'll never get tired of saying this. I think it's about being there for the other. It is about the other. Without Anna, my character doesn't exist, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Did you spend extra time with the two girls who played your daughter before the film started?
Sí, sí, claro, hubo todo un trabajo de creación de la relación. Se trataba de conocernos, de crear la confianza, incluso un poco de caernos mal. Hubo también como ese periodo, nuestra relación se fue construyendo y fue cambiando. En un principio, Anita, la versión pequeña, pues con ella tengo las escenas, digamos, más confrontacionales y estaba enojada conmigo. Genuinamente estaba enojada conmigo. Incluso, creo que esto nunca lo he dicho, hubo una vez que sus papás estaban ahí, sobre todo su papá, y ella llegó muy, muy molesta después del llamado. Y su papá me dijo, ¿no? Que por qué la regañaba tanto, ¿no? Y en ese momento incluso fue difícil para mí porque yo decía, tiene que entender que no se trata de Mayra haciéndole regañando a la niña, ¿no? Sino es el personaje. Y fue conforme el tiempo que fuimos construyendo la manera de trabajar, la relación de Rita y Ana, que es compleja, que es la maternidad que muestra Rita es políticamente incorrecta. Creo que es otra de las capas de la película, de lo que Tatiana retrata, una maternidad pues bastante lejana del cliché de la madre dulce y siempre dispuesta a lo que sea que necesita la niña, ¿no? Entonces, sí, hubo gran trabajo detrás para que se reflejara todo eso que veías en pantalla.
Yes, we mainly focused on creating the relationship, on getting to know each other, on building trust, and also not liking each other. Our relationship evolved, particularly with Anita, young Anna. She got mad at me, like genuinely mad at me once, and I've never said this before. Her parents were there, and they asked me, she's telling us like, why do you scold her so much? And I needed her to understand that it wasn't Mayra, it was the character. And with time, we were able to build that relationship and to create that tension between Rita and Anna. Rita's motherhood is a motherhood that's politically incorrect. It's a motherhood that is quite distant from the cliche of the sweet mother that is there for whatever it is that her child wants. And I think that's part of what Tatiana wanted to put in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Nicholas, where did you shoot it? I mean, it looks like you shot in a very remote location. So, where was it, and how easy was it to get the facilities you needed there?
This is a great question for a producer. It was a very challenging place in the sense that the story takes place in Acapulco and in Guerrero, in the mountains where Acapulco is in Mexico, but we couldn't shoot there. The violence wouldn't allow us shoot there. So we needed to find a town that had all the mountains, this beautiful place that Tatiana portrays. That it's kind of the heart of the movie, in terms that the girls love their mountain. The girls see how mining companies are killing, like a monster behind is killing the mountain, how they have rocks from the mountain that is kind of what sticks them together. So we needed to find this place that first of all was safe to shoot. So we found the mountains of Querétaro in very close to Mexico City, but actually the town Neblinas was around 10-12 hours away from Mexico City. And we found this place that it was safe. And then that the community welcomed us, because there were no infrastructure. There were no hotels, there were no restaurants, there was no gas station, ATM. So we needed to put together a shoot that could take place mostly in that town, and that we could work with the community, for housing, that we could hire extras, that the laundry, that people could do it. But it was not easy. I didn't imagine how complicated it was to do a movie that needed helicopters, special effects, so many extras, etc., in a place where there was no even cell phone signal. So the whole crew was like in the scene in the movie where all the town is looking for signal. And whoever had signal everybody was looking jealously, because it was very hard. The community was great, and also kind of it feels like it happens, what we portray in the movie in those towns. You see empty houses from people that have left to the US. You see that it's hard to access. So we found this place, we fell in love, and they've been the biggest supporters of the film. They have like a Facebook group, from Neblinas to the world, and everybody saw the movie. Everybody with families in the US were expecting the movie, because what it shows differently, at least from my point of view, from other Mexican films or series, it shows in a very human way what it means to live the town you love, even with all the difficult parts. It's different when you migrate for I don't know, luxury, when it's a luxury, sorry. But when you're displaced, when you don't have any other option, like trying to go to the US, because that's the safest place to be, even if it's a very dangerous road, than staying home. So for me, it was a way of making a movie that it was not only about this small town. It was a movie that could connect with so many places in the world where women have to live. They don't have other options, because for me, cinema it really works to connect and to get resonance with other people. So for me, that was important. Of that the movie was truthful enough to than just entertainment.
Right. I mean, that is a really amazing image. All the people on the hillside holding up their phones, trying to get signals as the sun is setting. So I guess that's real. That's not a fiction.
No. And sometimes crew would fake that they would get signal, that, and everybody and making a call walking through set, and everybody was just looking. It's like, is that real? How did that? What cell phone company? What carrier do you have? But it was very interesting. But because imagine that before you would give call sheets to all the crew members, with the scenes for the next day and all the scenes that you were going to work. Maybe we didn't have a printing office, or it was very complicated to get stuff there. We didn't have phones, so we couldn't call anybody to give any update of the call. We had to go door by door, telling the people, hey, you have to be tomorrow 2 hours later, So it was a very fun dynamic, but it also brought us all together in this project.
Right. Mayra, for you, were there ways in which the location sort of, helped your performance or helped the experience?
Muchísimo, me ayudó muchísimo. Creo que el lugar, Neblinas, es un personaje en sí, en la película. Y estábamos tan aislados, como Nico acaba de decir, que fue muy difícil al principio acostumbrarse a esa soledad. Además que yo soy madre, entonces extrañaba muchísimo a mi hija y creo que poco a poco me fui acostumbrando a eso, más bien lo abracé, no rechacé esa sensación y finalmente creo que eso es lo que le pasa a estas mujeres que viven ahí, viven en la desolación, no tienen ninguna esperanza de que alguien las vaya a rescatar. Entonces, sí, para contestar tu pregunta, ayudó muchísimo.
Yes, very much so. I think the location, Neblinas in itself, is a character within the film. We were so isolated. It was difficult to get used to the solitude. And I'm a mother, and I missed my daughter. And in the end, I decided to just embrace it. And I think that is what happens to the women there. They get used to it. They know that there is no hope, that nobody is coming for them. So to answer your question, yes, it helped a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Mayra, do you feel like this film speaks to to universal plight of women in Mexico or even beyond?
Even beyond. Sí, por supuesto. Me parece que Tatiana lo mencionó en algún momento y justo hace poco hablaba con un periodista de Brasil y decía que Latinoamérica tiene esta cara de madre soltera, por lo cual estoy bastante de acuerdo. Creo que voy a hablar por Latinoamérica. Históricamente se les ha dejado a las mujeres el cuidado de los hijos, la protección en todos los sentidos, nutrirlos, específicamente mujeres criando a otras niñas, es no solo cuidarlas porque son pequeñas, sino también hay que cuidarlas de no ser lastimadas, insisto, tengo una hija y sí me doy cuenta de repente que estoy obligada a enseñarle cosas que no tendría por qué a su corta edad saberla, pero no enseñarle que no puede salir a tal hora o no puede vestirse así o no puede decir tales cosas, la ponen en riesgo. Entonces sí, definitivamente creo que la película habla no solo a las mujeres de México, creo que a muchísimos otros lugares y sin duda pone ahí subraya que es muy diferente ser mujer en este mundo, más allá de vivir en un pueblo como Neblinas o en una gran ciudad.
Yes, of course. I think Tatiana mentioned it. I think we're talking to a journalist in Brazil, and she said that Latin America was the face of a single mother. And I'll speak for Latin America in general. I think historically women have been charged with taking care of children, of protecting them, nourishing them, but particularly mothers to girls. They have to take care of them so that they're not at risk. If I tell them, and I say that as being a mother to a young girl, I find myself having to teach her things that at a very young age, and it's difficult to tell her, like, you can't say certain things, you can't dress a certain way, or you can't go after a certain time, because that will put her at risk. And it's not just in Mexico. I think it underlines the how different it is to be a woman in a place like this, not just Neblinas, but just outside of the city.
Right. Well, let me ask you one more question. When it was over and you actually were able to read the script and then the original novel, were there things that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
Yes, muchísimo. Primero, la verdad, me deprimí. O sea, sentí que sentí que habíamos hecho muchísimo más que lo que estaba escrito, ¿no? Fue como una sensación de, ¿por qué no hicimos esto más rápido, no? O sea, eso fue como la primera impresión. Y después me entró como un gran orgullo de haber pertenecido a algo que de verdad fue creciendo a unos niveles que ni siquiera Tatiana imaginó en el papel. Y que incluso Tatiana es alguien muy rigurosa. Nico no me dejará mentir, es alguien que le cuesta muchísimo soltar el control de su material creativo, y eso fue una de las partes importantes en el trabajo de alguien que viene del documental, que tiene muchísimo más control a la ficción. Y también me dio muchísimo orgullo leer cómo ella soltó todo lo que ella, digamos, tenía muy bien cerrado creativamente hablando, y nos dejó a cada uno de las niñas y en lo personal desarrollar esos personajes. Entonces, eso fue como mi primera impresión. Después que leí la novela, me dieron muchas ganas de, ¿y cuándo va a haber la segunda parte? O estas cosas estarían padrísimas, ¿no? Prayers for the Stolen creo que Tatiana hace un resumen maravilloso de la novela, pero la novela es aún más rica y más vasta de lo que ves en la película, ¿no? Creo que es la naturaleza de cuando llevas al cine una novela.
Yes, a lot. I was first a little depressed, and I felt that we had done more than what was written, and I thought, why didn't we do this faster? That was my first impression, and then I began to be filled with a pride. Tatiana, and I think Nico agrees, she's a very rigorous, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult for her to let go of control of her creative material, particularly coming from the documentary, where she has so much control. And I was so proud of seeing her release so much of this control and allowing us to develop these characters the way that we did. In the novel, there were things in the novel that I keep thinking, maybe we should do a second part. Like, these things would be great to see. The novel it's a lot broader and richer, but I think that is also the nature of doing this kind of transfer into fiction.
Right. Well, Nicolás, when you got to the end, and the movie came out, it's been received really well. It's on Netflix. It's the Mexican Oscar entry. Did any of those financiers who were telling you were crazy to give a movie to a documentary director, have any of them said, "Oh, sorry, we were wrong"?
No, I didn't end up working with those people because they didn't believe in it, and I think it's a movie that you have to believe, because the most successful films I've done are the most risky ones, and that's a very good correlation that I've seen in my work, that just staying in a safe place, it doesn't really help or make something that excites me. I feel that it was a big challenge to wait 1 year, because with the pandemic, we were like ready to show the movie to the world. And I remember when I called the financiers and I said, like, listen, I don't feel that there's right conditions to show the movie, because I've done a lot of first features, and if it was her 10th movie and she was worldwide known, you can go directly either to theaters or to the platforms, and exist. But when you're a first-time filmmakers, even if that she had done amazing documentaries, she needed to be known in a broader environment. And I didn't see that happening if we didn't go to a festival in a competitive section, because I really believe that the movie had the cinematography, the acting, the music, like so many elements that could be discussed about it. And I didn't want to go into a virtual festival, for example. Like, I know that everybody was trying to keep the world moving and doing alternatives, but I was like, if I go directly to a virtual festival, if I go directly to a platform or to cinemas without really positioning the film, it won't have the life it deserves. And all the financiers were championing that and championing Tatiana. They saw the film, they loved it, and we pushed it more than a year and a half, I would say, than when we were ready. And now we have amazing partners with Netflix that they really are investing in foreign language content, in content that it's not obvious, because this movie wasn't maybe the obvious pick, and I love that they believed and bet on it. And now the movie's giving back to all of us so much, because I think that it's seen from the right angle. I think that Tatiana has the right way of portraying hard things to say, that for us as Mexicans, that we live these stories every day in the news, on TV and everything, that we have kind of like a filter for strong content, and strong in terms of something that we live in the streets every day, but seeing it in a very poetic and with a lot of love to her characters. And for me, I think that's what is resonating the most, and having very strong roots that kind of has made the movie being the Mexican submission. I hope we get to the short list. It's it's a filmmaker that deserves to do another movie, I would say. I think that's what I'm worried when I'm producing. Like, we have to win the next chance. That it's not gonna be easy, but that we keep going.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very good description of Tatiana and of the film. So that's probably a good place to wrap this up. Thank you all to the audience. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to know about upcoming screenings and get access to exclusive content, you can take advantage of the free trial TheWrap Pro. You can also get screening information and look at past screenings you might have missed by going to TheWrap.com and clicking on the events tab. So thank you very much, Nicolás, Mayra. Thank you, Cordelia, and thanks for a beautiful film.